republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. The agendas for tonight's meeting are on the table over there, and agendas for prior meetings as well as minutes are available on our website. The meeting tonight will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as it may be amended tonight by the Planning Commission. Other individuals with us tonight representing the township include our Dick Carlisle of Carlisle Wharton, our planning consultant, Jason Longhurst of Nowak and Frost, our engineering consultant, and Brian Ottman, our director of planning. At this time, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Bill Scarborough,
Here.
Joe Sucher,
Here.
Belinda Billings here, Brian Galley,
Here.
Jason Borsheim,
Here.
Ron Ritchie,
Here.
Tom Patel.
Here.
We have a quorum. Next item is approval and review and approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes?
I would like to make a change, please.
And what would that be?
I would like to request a few minutes at the end to read a written statement.
Before J?
Wherever you want it to be.
Let's do it before J.
Okay?
Does it need support?
Will you make that motion and then Joe support?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to allow me time to read a statement.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Do we need to approve the amended agenda now?
yes.
I'll move to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next is public comment for items not on the agenda. This time is provided for the audience, both personally or remotely, to comment on items which are not on the agenda. Later, we will provide opportunities on each agenda item for the public to comment. So again, to emphasize, this particular time period is only for comments on the items that are not on the agenda. If you wish to speak, please come forward to the podium and state your name and address. Please state your remarks for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission, not to anyone else in the room. And in an effort to keep the meeting moving along, we ask that you be brief and try not to be repetitive of things previously said. Please turn off all your cell phones. And so we will open it up first to people in the audience, and then after that, we will give the remote people the opportunity to speak. Is there anybody out there that would like to comment? Yes, ma'am.
Come to the podium.
Hello,
Hi.
my name is Kim Harper. I live in North Crest condominiums, right behind the shopping plaza at White Lake and Dixie Highway. I am asking the board to oppose the requested
This
variance.
is on the agenda.
What topic is this on?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the personal file for the shopping plaza, for the,
White Lake Plaza?
Yes.
That's on the agenda.
Right.
This public comment.
oh, I'm
is-
sorry, I thought you said for the agenda, so.
No,
all right.
this is for items that are not on the agenda. We will provide you
Okay.
an opportunity when we're discussing that. Thank. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody remotely? Okay, I will declare that public comment session over. Next item on our agenda is PC file 2024-006, petitioner Nicholas Shango. It is a special land use and amended final site plan for a planned shopping center at the corner of White Lake Road and Dixie Highway. For the benefit of the audience, Mr. Carlisle, could you give a brief summary of the project?
I think as commissioners and members of the audience are aware, this shopping center has been around for a number of years, built in the late 80s. White Lake Commons by a different developer. Actually, it was Weatherford Walker. It's no longer around anymore. It's approximately 160,000 square foot inline shopping center, and then you have two existing outlot buildings, one of which was a Century 21 real estate office that is currently vacant, and the other of which is a Wendy's. Over the years, the center has struggled to a degree with tenancy. It was originally built, I believe, my recollection is, was an A&P, and then it turned out to be a Farmer Jack's. And then we all know that Farmer Jack's went out of business, and it really sat vacant for a number of years. It was later owned by a real estate trust that was essentially an absentee owner, and for a number of years we had a number of vacancies in that center, and now it's currently owned by Shango Development that has really done a good job of keeping tenancy up or increasing tenancy and keeping tenants in that center. So that from that standpoint is definitely a positive. The applicant is currently proposing to do a couple of things. The end cap unit on the far west end was a former Frank's Nursery, and another business that went out of business. Frank's Nursery went bankrupt a number of years ago. Right next to that was was their outdoor nursery space, and that has remained open since Frank's went out of business. I think it's an Office Max or something like that right now. What the applicant is proposing to do is enclose that 19,000 square foot former Frank's outdoor nursery space display area, and I believe it's some type of exercise facility, and he may want to comment further on that. But I think that's definitely an added improvement to that particular inline part of the center. The second part is to develop additional outlots on the opposite side of the entry drive from where the current Wendy's is, and roughly a little over 16,000 square feet in two buildings is being proposed to be developed in more of a frontage shopping center area, and it appears to be predominantly food service type uses. There's two reasons why special land use is needed. The first one is the necessity for special land use approval for the drive-throughs facilities that are being proposed for the outlet center. The second reason, which unfortunately was not advertised, is post this development being built, the Planning Commission and the Township Board approved amendments to the C2 zoning district to require any building over 75,000 square feet to have special land use approval. There's a long story behind that. I won't get into it. It has nothing to do with this shopping center. It has to do with other things. But that is the second reason why this would be needed. Although this is an existing center, obviously the sum total of the center and these additions will be greater than 75,000 square feet. So consequently, that will need to have special approval before you're able to finally approve this site plan. So, Mr. Chairman, I have a number of issues in my review, which I won't go through at this point in time, that are substantive in issue and technical regarding parking and traffic circulation. They're in my review, and obviously at the time that you wish to discuss those, I will be happy to. But this is essentially what is being proposed tonight.
Thank you. With that, I will open the floor to the public comment, public hearing session.
Why don't we have the petitioner, is the petitioner here? Maybe
I
just
think-
give their overview of what they want to do, just so.
Is the applicant here? I'm here. Okay, could you give a brief? Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I just thought might help solve some of the questions.
Good evening, Nick Shango. We own the shopping center. Any questions I can answer? He did a pretty good job of explaining.
We just want to know if you wanted to add anything about what the overall plan for the shopping center is, so.
Well, we're at capacity inside. We filled it. So we're trying to bring new franchises out front. Only thing is the space that I want to do, that Frank's Nursery is not the end cap. Next to it is the end cap, it's the Office Max, which is gonna go away soon. And then to his point, the fitness place, I can't say who is gonna go in place of the Office Max. So we're gonna, that could be some mini junior big boxes, as we call them. So we're trying to create some co-tenancy that drives, shoppers, that will also help the outlet. So like this center can't get it, but like a Five Below, I do a lot of those, or like a Ulta Beauty, but we're trying to create some co-tenancy in the rear of the shopping center. So that might be one big tenant, it might be 4 little tenants. But it'll complement what we have going on there right now. But if you have any questions, I can answer questions or concerns.
Well, we'll open it up to the public. Perhaps later, we'll have some questions. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Comment from the public? Yes, whoever just raised their hand.
Did you open the public hearing?
I'm opening it now, yes.
Okay, thank you.
612?
Hi, good evening. My name is Judy Murray. I live on Northcrest Village Drive in the Northcrest Manor condominium homes. And I haven't spoken at one of these meetings before. I just have a couple questions. I know you had people out excavating or measuring where our street comes into our area. Are you planning on opening a road to access the plaza?
Can I ask you to address your comments to the planning commission, please?
Yes, my concern is there will be additional roads made into that plaza that will directly impact the traffic in our home.
Site plan we've received shows no additional access to the shopping center.
Okay, and then the other concern I have is there's no brick or fencing to separate the plaza from our homes. There's a berm, and as the plaza has gotten more occupants in it, we've had some vagrants living back there. We have some drinking going on back there, and so you're proposing adding new stores. I'm not sure if that's gonna cause more people to come back there. Is there the possibility of proposing some kind of barrier between the plaza and our homes? Currently, we just have some pine trees and a berm, and there's a lot of debris that gets back there. The plaza does not take care of it. We end up picking up a lot of it.
One of the concerns that was raised by our consultant was the health of some of the berm, but we can certainly take your request into consideration.
Okay, that's all I have.
And yes.
Again, Kim Harper from Northcrest, 2 condos directly behind the plaza also. I'm asking the board also to oppose granting the special use for the drive-through. While I understand development of the plaza is critical for our development as a township, and I would love to see development in the current building, I feel that the property owner has been a vacant landlord for many, many years. The property has diminished, and also by its diminishing, it's a bad sight on not only the township, but on our area of developments behind it. The building and grounds are poorly maintained and always in disrepair. Many years that's been the case. The current approved site plan is not enforced. There is a berm, but it was to have trees planted along the top of that berm. Wind took them down, the trees have died. No one enforces the landlord to replace them. The ones that are on the top of the trees have been at the expense of the owners of North Crest Villages 2 and 3. And so we have been the one trying to keep it up so that it doesn't come back over onto our property. Drive-through services are typically fast food. They draw a lot of debris. So we already have a plaza that doesn't keep up with that. Now we're gonna grant this vacant landlord extra permission to add to that, thus increasing our problems. Current traffic congestion is also one of the highest in North Oakland County. Allowing drive-throughs would only add to this congestion. I don't mind the outlot buildings. I just don't believe the drive-throughs need to be added to them. Also, I think having the drive-throughs, encouraging the food service is going to cause a lot of competition for those current tenants, namely Neiman's Market, to their food service. Now, Neiman's has been good for our community. They've tried to incorporate a lot of stuff in our community, keep things up. They have really held this development in profitable circumstances. And now the developer is going to come in, put in food services, and make competition for them. It just really doesn't make any sense to me to be a good landlord. So I feel for those current contracts that are there. I don't want to see them go, and this type of competition could easily push them out. So in closing, I just want to say I just am urging you not to allow the property owner to have the additional drive-through services. And during this review, we would also urge you to review the current site plan and enforce what's already on the books and what already has been voted for. We've asked that for many years, that the landlord be held responsible for replacement and maintaining this area, and we have gotten nowheres. So now that they're wanting something special, I think they should be held to at least bring it up to code. So.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lisa Paul, 5534 North Crest. I also live right behind there. 2 questions. Has the traffic flow been taken into consideration? Because that is a crazy corner, and that's just going to add to that. My second question is, if you do have outbuildings, what will become of the Century 21? Will that be demolished? Will that be remodeled? Have you thought about that as well?
There's no plans presented to us to demolish it, but obviously, as a planning commission, we can't speak what, future tenant would be.
Right, okay, because that's
Maybe
been sitting
the
empty
applicant-
forever, and
Maybe the applicant can address that later, but yeah. Yes.
Hello, my name is Stacy Walker. I live in North Crest Manor, so I'm directly behind the Neiman's Plaza area. And just a couple thoughts. I will say that I am happy that there will be something done with that Frank's Nursery area. Many of us in my subdivision have dogs, and we walk that area, and we see a lot of things get dumped back there and just, dangerous areas. I do agree, we do have a problem with, I am the president of my association, so I hear a lot of these issues, but we've had people in the berm snuffing paint. We've had people doing drugs back there. We've had homeless folks sleeping back in those trees. The police do try to come through and do some, checks and balances, but that is a problem. It's becoming worse now that the plaza's more, occupied. So that is a concern, as well as the trash. It used to be that the back side of that building was taken pretty good care of. I've been in that subdivision for 14 years, and I can say that at least, I don't know if it was a switch in ownership or exactly when, but the care has just fallen to the wayside. There's trash always floating around back there. They're not cutting the grass like they used to. They're not trimming the trees if things fall. We've already taken care of a couple of trees that have fallen that technically really are theirs, but we know we wouldn't get anywhere with that. Like it's been said already in the parking lot, the trees are either half dead or just kind of, you might as well just take them down. They look ridiculous. It's just extra work and expense for, I'm not sure why, because they don't even look like pretty trees. My other question is, so on the White Lake Road side, there's a lot of accidents that occur, and I'm sure you're well aware of that. I know it's come up before, and we see it all the time. So I'm just wondering, again, with that traffic flow, you can't turn left either out of our subdivision, which our main entrance is on the White Lake side, the Northcrest Manors, if you're familiar with that, and also then the plaza. So that's kind of a dangerous area. So I don't know if there's some consideration of changing maybe lighting, the stop lights, coming and going. And then the other piece we have is we share that egress with the plaza. So we've already experienced many issues with our, I guess you'd call it our berm where our sign sits. And about 6 years ago or so, we spent a lot of money to have a new slab boulder center put in with our marble sign and so on to try to help protect it. But that is being used by semi-trucks. And this winter, they have the ability to use that egress to come in to get to Neiman's behind the plaza. And we're aware of that, but when it comes to damage, it breaks our curbs down, we've replaced it. There's no shared responsibility when we try to reach out to get help with people. We don't have a contact, and we're not getting any response, which if you're gonna move forward with this, I feel there needs to be some give and take and more consideration for the homeowners that live behind that plaza, and also the road itself. So the road is starting to crack. We've already done our own replacement of roads in the subdivision, but the common area has not been done. And there's a piece that goes from White Lake, and it comes straight down, and then it branches into a Y, if you're not familiar. To the right goes into our subdivision, and that's where we have responsibility. And then the other side curves into the plaza, and that has not been taken care of. There's big ruts and potholes. There have been pine trees that have fallen. They've been chopped off, but they have not been ground up. They haven't been replaced, and now they just look like weedy little bushes. So I would think that we could get a little bit of support there if this is where we're headed. And again, like I said, I'm really glad they're gonna do something with that Frank's Nursery piece. That's an eyesore and a danger, I think. And then I agree with the Century 21. That building's been vacant for so long. I would think that instead of adding 2 more buildings, maybe they could work with reusing that building as well. And then the other thing I just want to ask is, it seems quite vague as far as what the buildings are going to be. I'm hearing about the food service, but then there's the Frank's area. I'm not opposed to it, but I think people would want to know, are we looking at dispensaries? I know a lot of cities are hearing about that kind of thing coming to their city. Is that even an option? Okay, all right, good to know. So with that, again, I think if we're not talking about, originally, again, as being the president of the association and walking my dog, I saw lots of people out surveying as early as last spring. I've called the township and tried to keep on top of things to understand what was going on. And there's flags all around the water reservoir between the plaza and our egress in and out of our subdivision. Flags all in there. There was a couple on the other side of our street. And our biggest concern is if there's something planned that we're not aware of that has to do with our road and access or any buildings in that area. And I'm hearing no at this point, and I just want to be confident that that's where we're at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I meant her. You'll be next, okay?
Hello, my name is Maria Zwernik, and that's Zwiernik. Will someone lift their glasses here?
I'm just going to wait till you're done talking, but thank you.
I live on Pinehurst, which is across the street from the entrance to the Neiman's off of Dixie Highway there. And I am coming, speaking for some of my neighbors who live on Lakewood. We have to try to get out onto Dixie Highway, and I'm sure the Northcrest people understand this. To try to get out safely onto Dixie Highway is really difficult. I have two young kid drivers. I got one more coming, and it is very scary. So further development in this area, which is on a corner, and a few people have referenced the amount of accidents that occur at the White Lake Dixie Highway. We hear the ambulances regularly, and I've lived there 23 years. It hasn't improved. Drawing more people into that area is a huge concern, a safety concern, and it's also some other concerns as well. So, first of all, I am vehemently opposed drive-throughs. That is going to, for all the reasons that were listed, the garbage, we have witnessed the same, not that plaza not being kept up. And I really, Neiman's has been a great customer, or a great business for Clarkston. They support our youth. They donate food for sporting events. We want to bring in some competition for them. I'm not aware of what is taking CVS's place. So CVS is gone. Ohm Dome that was next to it, through the grapevine, heard they were forced out, because I know the owner, but she didn't say this to me directly, but in the hopes that they could expand right next door to CVS, make it a larger piece of property, maybe for 5 and Below. I'm sorry, a 5 and Below sells garbage from overseas. Well, you mentioned 5 and Below or an Ulta, all things that sell things from overseas. Like, we need to support the USA, made in America. Lastly, a fitness place. Isn't there an Anytime Fitness right in there already? Do we need another one? There's Mueva Fitness, there was the Ohm Dome, there's several fitness areas. Crunch is nearby. We got Powerhouse, we got Planet.
I misspoke about that.
Oh.
I said that. He
Okay.
corrected me.
All right, thank you. I would like to see the reuse of current spaces. The Century 21 building, I cannot imagine any more traffic going in and out of that plaza than what it is. And as she mentioned, White Lake Road, people who want to head towards town, they start way back in the right-hand turn lane, which is supposed to be designated for turning into the plaza or into Northcrest, and they start way back there and they come flying through to get to the intersection. Same thing happens on north and southbound Dixie Highway. People start back by the cinema in the middle lane and come hauling up as fast as they can to get up to the intersection. And here we try to get out and turn left. We tell our children, don't turn left, only turn right, go all the way around, because it's just not safe. So I am opposed to any of that, any of those outbuildings with drive-throughs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Lawrence Larson, and I live at North Crest, 5863 Shore Court. And I really agree with those that have spoken about the traffic problems. There's huge backups on White Lake and Dixie. I've tried, I think it was mentioned that there's a subdivision that's, they're detached condos that try to get onto White Lake Road. And turning left, it's a very dangerous spot because its traffic's backed up so often. I thought I heard someplace that it's the most dangerous intersection in the township. I'm not sure about that, but I'm hoping that we can do some research on that question. One of the problems is that the Dixie and White Lake aren't perpendicular to each other exactly, so I think it causes dangerous left turns. But drive-throughs are going to create a lot of traffic and maybe trash buildup. I'm glad there's quite a few that have spoken already in this. It's great to hear that this is a democracy, I think, showing itself. So the traffic and accidents are my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody online?
My name's Richard Southern. I live at 5750 White Lake Road. I own the 6 acres that's directly adjacent to the senior center on White Lake. I guess I just had one thing in particular to say to Mr. Schenkel, and that is quality. We looked over the senior center very carefully when it went in. I toured 3 of the other ownerships there. The person who came in put in quality stuff, and it's been a great development. We had as many as 15 people camped out on that back lot when Amos owned it, you know, a non-resident owner in his 90s. He couldn't control that situation. That's all gone. It's much better. I want to thank the association, and in particular the young lady that spoke on behalf of the association. They're very active. They do very good work. I'm sure Mr. Schenkel will not put in businesses that cannibalize one another. That almost is self-defeating. So please consider that. But whatever you do, quality, quality. We're aware that having a vacant shopping center does no one any good at all. None of our trees will get fixed. None of our roads will matter. So we want quality tenants, and whoever comes in there, we want quality work. You heard several people speak about the accident rate there. I've talked with one of the brothers, Neiman Brothers. about what can be done about that left-hand turn out of that specialized exit. I think a $300 sign that says, no left turn between 4 and 6 o'clock would do wonders. No locals will do that. You guarantee that person that comes out there and tries to get across there is a rookie. It's guaranteed. So if you just had a sign posted there, no left turn, 4 to 6, you'd cut half of those accidents down, and there's 2 a month. So, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience? How about online? Okay. Was that a hand going up or scratching your head? Okay, I will close the public hearing at 6:36. For the commission, I think we've probably all read the report from Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Longhurst. I don't think there are significant issues. I don't think we need to hash out all of them. What I'd like to know is do any of you have anything that you'd like Mr. Carlisle to clarify in that regard? Or do you have any additional concerns other than what Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Longhurst have raised?
Can we ask questions of the owner?
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Shango, how long have you owned the property?
Few years. Not as long as.
2 years.
Yeah, a few years, yeah, we haven't.
And this berm that's in the back with the trees, with the buffer, obviously that's a big concern for the neighbors. I mean, something would have to be done to fix that. I mean, you should not even be allowed to not have trees because it was required originally.
I just, if I may, I do this for a living, and it goes without question. I mean, we screen trees, we usually do that. I've never heard the complaints, probably because they don't have our contact info, so.
Okay.
And I was gonna say, after, I was writing everybody's comments down, you can, Rick and Brian can give my information, they can contact me, we get a plan together, and we'll be happy to do it. I mean, we understand this. We have a lot of centers that abut neighborhoods. We have one in Grand Blanc, we're 600-700 feet against the neighborhood with a wall, and that's where the compactor is and the dumpster is. So we know how to do this. 9 Mile and Grand River, we have a similar situation. Condos are next to us, residents the other side. So we just did a Starbucks there, got it approved, and we take all the comments seriously, because if we were living there, we would have the same concerns. So just bring it to my attention, and I'll work with Rick and Brian, and we'll get it done. It's not a problem.
I would love to see a viable neighborhood retail there, because we've been here for 10 years and it's not been well occupied, or there's always vacancies. I had another question with North Crest. You share an entrance apparently. I'm wondering if you would be willing to share expenses for that entrance, because at our condo, we have 2 condo associations using the entrance, and
Sure.
we divvy up the percentages for just the expenses to the entrance when something has to be done.
So the thing is, well, I'm open to looking at it, but to answer one of my neighbor's questions, we weren't looking to use that for retail. We were looking to use that as a residential. So we studied it, took the topography, did a wetland test. It wouldn't have nothing to do with the retail. We would want to complement whatever is already there. It would be residential, and so there's a lot of phases to it. We want to lower the berm on White Lake. Brian told me about this accident thing on the White Lake. He said, "Can we move the sign?" We're open to that. We want people to see the center, and we want people leaving also to be safe. So that berm was part of my project later, is to lower the whole berm, get the proper screening for the off-street parking, and just more visibility. And then that Century 21 will get resolved too, because we can't get Nationals to take that because you can't see it. You only see the top of it. So I do have, I was a Dunkin' franchisee. I ran 7 Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins for 16 years. I got Dunkin' in my pocket. If this approves, we got one of the end caps is guaranteed Dunkin'. They're gonna move from another location that they're in your city. They wanna move down to me. She's a friend of mine, known her 20 years. So that would be, you know, we bring complementary tenants. I think we've brought stellar tenants. Stretch Lab, Club Pilates. I mean, we yoga, you know, we try to bring something that the neighborhood can use, that it's an extension of downtown. And what you'll get here is an outdoor dining. You get some other new national tenants that are not in this market that want to be in this market. But I always look for, you know, you have a nail salon, you have a coffee. I mean, we do this for a living. So we get the right pieces that are good tenants that bring, and these outlots actually help drive traffic for the grocery store, who was struggling. We helped them throughout COVID. They were, you know, without putting their business out there, we took over and they were struggling. So, you know, that's our, you know, that's the neighborhood store, right? So it's not about money. It's just about, that's part of this center. That's how the, you know, you have the kids thing. That doesn't work without the grocery store. So it's somewhere you can take your family. So, you know, all in all, what I observed today is you have a lot of concerns about the traffic. We need to work on that. We need to come up with a plan that's safe leaving the plaza, but you're never going to avoid, even if you don't do the development, you're never going to avoid backups. It's a busy corner. You're right off the expressway, but there's solutions to how you stack the cars, how cars leave. I find it sometimes, because I go to 75 to go to my other properties, Grand Blanc and Clio, I find leaving from Dixie's a little bit easier. I never leave left through White Lake, so they're right about that. You know, that this is not a, you know, but we got to work towards something and figure it out. But I'm a team player. I'll hear all their comments. You know, this is just conceptual right now. You know, we got work to do. But I think I've proven that we brought the right people to the center. And as far as the trees and the trash, I mean, you just let us know, and then if we don't do that, then you can point the finger at us. But you know, if there's no wall, I haven't studied it closely. If there's no wall, yeah, no problem. We'll get the wall. We'll get the evergreen screening, something solid. That'll help with the trash problem. If there's a barrier, but you know, obviously more usage, more mess, right? But you know, I'll work with the association. And as far as your trucks coming in and out, we have a situation where we have a Kroger and the Starbucks. Since I own everything, I can put a restriction on them on when they can load and come through. They're not allowed to go through your neighborhood, and if they do, they'll be penalized.
Mr. Shango?
Yes.
You don't need to go through everything right
Okay,
now.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, there are a lot of issues raised.
Sure.
Are you willing to resubmit and try and address all of these concerns?
Well, sure, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So,
I gotta sit with the guys, you know, you know, there's a lot to go over here, but, you know, the traffic thing's complicated, but, you know.
if I may,
Sure.
I'd like to ask the planning commission members if they have any other issues in addition to what our two consultants have asked, so that Mr. Shango has a full understanding of what our concerns are. Then I'd like to ask him if he has any objection to or disagreement with any of those concerns, and then let's let him resubmit that if he's willing to do that.
If it's the same comments that I emailed to me, you know.
Well, that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
planning commission members if they have any additional
Sure.
comments. Yes.
I just have one general comment. We're currently going through our master plan. And on page 48 of our master plan, it lists this area as like a central sub-area, because it's one of the bigger commercial areas in the township. And just to remind you and our commission here that it says that the objectives of this particular area are to establish a more defined street wall with pedestrian-oriented outlet developments. That's one of the four. Incorporate landscape features, an anchor site with complementary users and promote commercial with residential offices. So those are things listed in the master plan, just that, like the one fellow said, I guess quality, and it's kind of the anchor plaza in that area.
Yes.
For us to keep that in mind as we decide as well.
I think, if I may, I think we introduced a pedestrian, a connection to your sidewalk, but also, we'll go through we're gonna look at the whole site and how we do the landscape there. So,
Okay.
that was one of the conversations that I had with Brian, but, offices, we tend to stay away unless it's a professional services. Is it a
Okay.
dentist, is it a foot doctor, but as far as general offices, we tend to stay away from that.
Mr. Carlisle, did you have
Yeah,
something?
I just want to explain something real briefly, because I think I may possibly have been the only person here when the shopping center was originally approved. The access that is being referred to was negotiated. I think many people from here live in North Crest too, correct? And there's North Crest
We're in the
One.
Manners.
North Crest One, North Crest One had been around for a while. North Crest Two developed sometime, shortly, either concurrently with or shortly after that. But this access is a truck access. And it is a shared access. I don't recall originally, I think the owner of the property of North Crest owned that piece of property and negotiated the access.
Yeah, Forest Mills out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Can you stand on the other side so I can see where you're pointing?
No problem.
There you go.
So I think Mr. Mills, though, negotiated this access with White Lake Commons. And the idea is to provide a dedicated entrance, because at that time, it was gonna be an A&P, and they needed to try to negotiate truck access from this entrance was gonna be very difficult. So the idea was that this is gonna be a dedicated access for truck traffic, and then obviously access for the balance of North Crest, predominantly North Crest Two, although it does continue on through North Crest One from that standpoint. So a lot of this drive goes through property that was originally part of the shopping center, and then continues on and goes through North Crest Two. But there is a shared access agreement in place that does require joint maintenance. Where that is right now, I don't know, but it's probably recorded. As you can see, the shopping center property was a very oddly shaped piece of property from that standpoint. But that is exactly why that arrangement was made, so that, and I think probably from the truck access, it was predominantly because of the grocery store, although there certainly may be some of the other stores that use it also too. But I wanted to clarify that, just so that there's no misunderstanding, is that truck access has to remain. Because you have no other way to access the rear of the shopping center for trucks.
Am I allowed to speak? So.
Can you come up?
Sure. So, and I won't claim to know all of the details right down to the nth degree, but you are correct, there is a joint responsibility for that first section, which would be up to the upper left corner, and then where you see it kind of splits into that Y, and the gray part goes into our subdivision. The concern we have is, first of all, if you've ever driven by there, that it's a very narrow area. So when a semi tries to make that turn, they're far too large. In fact, this winter, we have no proof because we don't have cameras, but that center island that we have with the boulders was hit and everything was pushed back. And we're in the process now of getting it evaluated to see what damage, but whatever it was, moved a boulder, and I'm not exaggerating, this large, and pushed it, and there's marks on it. So our concern is just, again, having access to who we can work together with as far as maintaining it. We plow it. We take care of we own the island in the middle, so we've had that all redone because the semis come in there and they roll over the curb and eventually they break. We've patched the blacktop between White Lake and the entrance multiple times because it just starts to deteriorate from the trucks coming in and out. So our biggest concern is just, yes, we understand there's an egress, we're not disputing that, but we feel like we need to have a shared responsibility that's not happening. And then, if I may, just point out where the road, so where this part comes from here to here, this part, so we've paved from here down, but nothing happens here. There's big ruts and broken concrete or asphalt. There are trees that have fallen and not been replaced. I mean, I grew up in Clarkston, so I've been here my entire life, but I've been in this subdivision for 14 years. And I have watched these trees fall and nothing happened around this. This is a big electrical box. So that's the concern. And then our sign. We've done everything we can. We've spent, I think, $7,000 to $8,000 to put our new plan in place to protect it. And we just want to not be constantly spending money on landscaping and concrete and things when it's not our cars, it's semis. And I'm not saying that they're reckless drivers because it's very narrow. I just don't think they have a choice because there's boulders on both sides.
Do you have a copy? So you acknowledge there's some sort of shared access agreement?
Yes,
Do you have a
yes.
copy of it?
I don't with me,
You,
but,
so you've seen it?
yes.
I have that.
And does it call out for sharing costs?
I don't know, I don't know what it calls out for, but I'm gonna work with them. This is an easy fix, and we can fix how this thing goes in, but, you know, let's put our minds together, we'll get something.
What-
That's easy.
One more question is, your master deed, is that whole road there, the second access coming into your condo from White Lake, is that part of your master deed? I'm just trying to clarify.
From what point where it Y's, is that what you're talking about? Or
No, from White Lake to where where the Y is and then further on. Is that all in your master deed or is just that green, I mean, I don't know
No,
what.
it
Honestly,
is
I'm
not,
not
because
sure.
it was never, it's not contiguous.
Yeah.
So
It's a separate
I
piece
guess
of
what I'm
property.
getting at is who owns that roadway?
Well, I do know that when they put the senior center
White
in,
Lake Commons.
when they put the senior center in, there was also a meeting to request an easement to come, like, so here's our road and the senior center is here, and there was an easement request to come into our road to do a turnaround for ambulances. And at that point, in that time, we have the, Milza, we now own that section, or we, I'm not sure what the right terms are, but we have the ability to deny that, which we did, and that was not permitted. But I'd have to dig deeper and get the information, and I'd be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you. Other planning commission members, are there any issues you have other than what Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Longers have raised?
I have one more
Yeah.
traffic question, and Brian, I don't know if this is even possible or not, but I come down that road a lot on White Lake, and one of the ladies was talking about how people get in that right lane when they're not really going to Neiman's. And I don't, but I always look over my shoulder, because if you don't get in that right lane soon enough, they won't let you in. So, I'm just wondering if can you put, poles or something to keep people, if they're in the right lane, to force them to turn right? And also some configuration to force people not to turn left out of that shopping center. Is that a possibility?
Well, I think now's the time to address that with the site plan in front of us, with an increase in the footprint of the building with the Frank's Nursery. It seems pretty appropriate. I mean, we got accident data from there, so there was one last week. So the sheriff's office gave us that data, so it's a problem.
If you could fix that entrance exit there, that would be a huge piece of the puzzle, I think.
Okay. Anybody else?
I guess my comment on, just on the two outlet buildings, there was a number of comments by Carlisle Wartman to, talking about traffic flow and everything. And I guess to me, I just wanted to verbalize that, part of the fix might be making those buildings smaller or whatever to accommodate, you know, the pass-through lanes and the fixing the traffic. I guess, to me, with the they shall propose 6 20-foot sections in each of the buildings. And, you know,
Yeah.
to me, it might need to be reduced to 4 20-footers or 5 20-footers or something to help with the traffic flow, I guess, you know, to whatever the fix is gonna be on that. So I just wanna bring up that
Okay,
reducing the size of the building might be part of the solution
or,
to get there. So.
or reducing the drive-throughs, or
Right.
1 or 2 of them, or.
Well, like I say, if you
Yeah,
eliminate the
I'll-
drive-throughs, then that helps with the pass-through lanes and all that kind of stuff, so.
Anybody else? Mr. Carlisle, would a traffic study come up with recommendations like a stoplight in front of the center or something that might give us more leverage going to the county?
No, this is an issue, Harper knows about this, being on the DDA. This is part of the DDA plan to, we know that intersection needs to be, there needs to be an overhaul of that intersection. The County Road Commission and MDOT. Problem is, we're dealing with 2 different road agencies, because even though MDOT does, it is a state highway, White Lake Road is a county road, but I think I heard someone say that it's one of the highest, if not the highest, accident rate intersections in the township, and that's correct. So the solution always is long-term. I don't want anybody to think like this is gonna happen now. But the important thing is if we lay the groundwork with this owner for, to accommodate certain improvements to that intersection, the time to do it is now. So for example, if there's additional right-of-way that might be needed along White Lake Road, or, controlling the access out of that current drive, this is the time, obviously the time to do it now. Or, if there's some other arrangements that we can come up with. But the traffic study of that intersection is a major undertaking. But it is something that is on the radar of the DDA, and it's one of the top priorities to have done.
Yeah, I mean, that intersection's obviously been a traffic problem for 20 years, but does him improving his facility and adding 1 more tenant increase traffic counts? In my mind, it's a local center. The traffic problem is already there. If he puts 1 more outlet or 2 more outlets out there, it's local people in that 4 to 6 o'clock afternoon block that are driving by anyways. I don't think people are making special trips and adding to the count per se.
Right.
I guess is my point.
Right. One other thing, Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clarify is the understanding that the current owners have only owned this a couple of years. Some of the references, I don't know if some of the references about issues of maintenance have occurred in the last couple of years, but I know for sure prior they were, because we attempted on many occasions to work with the previous owners to get certain things done there, and it was an out-of-state real estate investment trust that had no local representation. So consequently, it was very difficult. So if any property owners, neighbors had any issues, they wouldn't have known who to contact, because we didn't know who to contact half the time. So from that standpoint, I just want to say that all the criticisms are legitimate, but they may not all be the responsibility of this current owner, because that property has been under other ownership for dozens of years. And it has been a problem in the fact that the vacancy has been one of the major problems. And as I said in my review, we should compliment the current owner, because that is not an issue right now.
Okay. Mr. Longhurst, it seems like this site plan should be enlarged, or maybe it's a function of the way it was shrunk to fit on the computers, I don't know. But to include that access that both the condos and the shopping center use. And if that is done or has been done, can you analyze those radiuses and make sure they're appropriate for truck traffic?
Yeah, and their engineer could run a turning template through there too, so they could submit that documentation to show truck access and circulation for the site. Because that was one of the comments in our review, focusing on the areas of improvement, is that we wanted to see that. But I think they could easily expand that out to the areas to this neighboring residential property there.
Okay. I had just a couple comments. Every dumpster that you have on the back side of the whole inline center, as we're calling it, is out in the open. It's sitting away from the building. A lot of them are sitting away from the building, not up against the building, not in an enclosure, every one of them. And I believe our ordinance requires them all to be enclosed. So we'd like you to comply with that.
So each tenant to have its own enclosure?
They can be grouped, can't they?
Yeah.
You can group them. Yeah.
I believe
He's
it's
showing
against
with
building code
gates
and
on the front, on the one.
Well, but
He's talking about existing.
there's a lot of them in the back.
Oh, you're talking about in the back, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the new outlets.
Mr. Chair, it
Yes.
can't be against the building, because I believe that's against fire and building codes.
Okay.
So, but
Thank you.
point taken though.
Yeah,
You're talking about the existing ones
Yes.
behind the building,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll figure out something, we'll figure out something.
And then, the monument sign at that White Lake entrance, if you wanna look to the left, it's right there in your way. And I think we need to do something with that. Anybody else?
Well, if they prohibit turning left, then it won't be in the way.
No, because you still gotta look to the
Still
left
gotta
to see
look.
if anybody's coming.
Still gotta look
When
left.
you turn right.
If you're turning right, you still gotta look to the left to see if anybody's coming.
Oh, I see what you're saying,
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're willing to listen to our advice, take it back, and modify your application.
Yes, of course, yeah, we're gonna work with them, you know, just get a hold of Brian, he'll give you my contact, we'll start there, and then I'll work with these guys, they know what they're doing. We'll get something figured out. The biggest thing is gonna be that left turn, I'm with you guys, but everything else is easy to do,
Okay.
you know, we're not selfish.
With that in mind, somebody make a motion to postpone, please, until,
Chairman?
The communication piece, like how are we going to, like I'd love to have you have I'm the president, my name, my phone
I'll give you
number,
my,
and likewise, who are we dealing with?
I can give you my phone number.
Okay, we'll just do it afterwards.
Joe?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, okay, after hearing all this and getting some commitment that you're gonna make some changes to the benefit of the neighborhood and the area, I would like to make a motion to postpone the site plan approval process, giving the owner time to resubmit his site plan, addressing the issues that have been brought to his attention both tonight and in writing through Mr. Carlisle and Mr. Ottman, presumably working together, I would think, on that.
Can I ask you to amend you said, postpone the site plan approval, can you also say the special land use?
And the special land use, and there's two of them, special land uses, until the site plan is returned with the corrections.
Yep, I'll give it a second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. One question, yes.
Will there be another hearing?
Yes.
It
Can't
will be
tell you when.
advertised. It
Pardon
will
me?
be advertised. Again,
You can monitor the agendas on the website, the township website. You will not, am I correct, you will not get, if you're within the notification distance, you will not get another written notice.
See ya.
we'll republish it. Yep.
And that means a written,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, we'll resend postcards.
I don't know why the young guy gets the gas. Don't know why the
And
young
we'll
guy gets the gas.
re-advertise.
Thank you.
Go see your kids. I'm gonna see ya.
There is no regular business. Approval of the minutes. Anybody have any changes?
I had one, I don't know if it's right or not. Should I show it to you, Brad?
No, just verbalize it.
Okay. Well, these pages,
Which one?
page 8 of 11.
Which
where
one?
it says Commissioner Galley moved in PC file, blah, 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 to table the matter and direct planning
Excuse me,
development and
we're still
staff to
having-
consider a regulatory.
Hold on a second. Folks, can you continue your conversations outside, please? All right, first of all, let us find the page.
Okay, page 8 of 11. I think it's supposed to say registration ordinance.
No,
No?
no,
Okay.
that's right. It's regulatory.
Okay.
Page 8 of 11.
Which is
It's
page
the April 11th
36 of
minutes.
Yep,
the.
yep.
Okay, so no changes?
No changes.
Anybody else?
Nope. I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of April 11th, 2024 as presented.
Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now, I believe we have a second set of minutes, don't we?
Yep, for the special meeting,
Yeah.
April 23rd.
Any changes to that? If not, how about a motion?
I'll move to approve the special meeting minutes of April 23rd, 2024 as presented.
Support that, in addition.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll abstain.
2 abstentions. Okay. Mr. Pytel and Mr. Galley. Consultants report.
You ready to talk about the master plan?
Yep.
Sure.
We have 2 more chapters to go. Sorry, Joe, they're short, though. I mean, you know. Yeah, we should have formally put that on the agenda, but I reminded, Brian, he
You got-
asked me, I forgot, and then called him back and reminded him that we did want to get these final 2 chapters reviewed. And then the final chapter that we will review will be the implementation chapter, not tonight, because we are revising that in accordance with your recommendations. So,
Dick, I was gonna compliment and say you got your preparation done ahead of schedule, but
I guess. So, Mr. Chairman, if this is the appropriate time, I guess I would like to receive any comments. I do want you to know that the infrastructure chapter, I have provided to our Public Works Director, Mr. McKee, and he has given me some comments. They're mostly clarification and technical corrections, so I won't go through those. We will make those, particularly his comments about water and sewer system and the safety pack system. So, anyway, so I'd like to know if you have any questions or comments about the infrastructure section of the plan.
The only thing I would comment at, the Independence Township right-of-way plan, page 88, that map, I think it still doesn't have that.
Pardon me?
It doesn't have that new exit, if I'm looking at it right.
Oh, yeah, this is just the right-of-way plan, though. It
From
doesn't
the
have-
county, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the existing right-of-way plan. There's no right-of-way for that exit right now. Are you talking about Clintonville?
No, I'm talking about Sashabon, the one where you have,
Oh,
it does.
It's just that
Yeah.
showing the southbound.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's the old,
The southbound exit.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
road
new
layer.
really
Sashabon.
anymore,
Yep, I'm
The old
sorry. I
road layer.
misunderstood. Like I say, we haven't built the Clintonville Road interchange.
It's like that on
yet.
almost every map that you guys show. There's no southbound.
Yeah.
yeah, it's the old road flare.
as long as you mentioned it,
On this side.
Clintonville, is that near in the foreseeable future, or is that off the drawing board, or?
Well, it was never really on the drawing board, except from the township's perspective. It was formally taken off the drawing board when, all the I-75 improvements were approved by MDOT, and this was many years, 10, 15 years ago. the township has never not felt that something should be done there for additional relief from Sashabaw Road exit. And under Mr. Kittle's, when Mr. Kittle was supervisor, he wanted that back in because he wanted to actively pursue that, and he did. But no, but I think the point of it is that we keep it in the plan so that we always have a placeholder to remind MDOT that this is still, from the township's perspective, an important project. And that's how Sashabaw Road ended up, the interchange ended up, those improvements came into play, so.
Is that, I mean, that's a major frustration I've always had is roads, very little influence over the counties. Is there anything, anything else we can do?
In my experience, it's all been a matter of how active leadership is in lobbying the road commission and the state agencies. You know, previously when we had this, well, we still have the CIN in place. The reason that we've gotten all the improvements that we have gotten is because, you know, our township leadership was actively involved with the road agencies. I mean, you don't have jurisdiction over any of the roads. However, you know, if you were able to bring resources to the table, their ears perk up. And we've always been able to do that in this township, at least in the recent past, with every road project that we've been able to do. And the road millage, as Mr. Ritchie knows, is a great case in point. That's where you really creatively get the attention of the road improvement agencies. So being proactive is really a key for every township. If you're not active in it and you don't put money up on the table, you're gonna get only the attention that everybody else gets.
Southbound entrance ramp from, on Clintonville, to 75. Basically, the road commission said even if we paid the full amount, they really weren't interested in it. So-
And,
So
yeah,
that's how
for
much they've been
sure.
stonewalling that.
It was MDOT really, but yeah.
But basically, yeah, because we even, like, how about if we just pay for the whole thing? They go, no, not interested, so.
Yeah. But you know, my experience over time is that road agency leadership and road agencies change. The leadership at Oakland County Road Commission has been a tremendous change over the last few years. Our relationship with them has been as good as if it's ever been. And it's a very cooperative relationship. And, you know, at the MDOT level, there's a lot of turnover in terms of the leadership, but you just have to keep your name in front of them and get their attention about various problems. This is what the DDA is going to experience on Dixie Highway. If they are not vigilant in essentially, quote, lobbying MDOT about solving some of those problems, they've got thousands of other problems elsewhere that they're in the process of solving. So this is no criticism of them. It's simply a matter of reality. If you don't put this at the top of your agenda, you're not going to get any attention.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A question. I understand the politicking and the, keeping your name in front and all that kind of stuff. Is there any other physical changes that might occur here that's gonna help move that up to the top? Like different kinds of traffic patterns, double the traffic down Sashabaw? Or I'm just making it up, but I mean, is it just gonna be word of mouth and keeping their attention and no amount of changes in the township in terms of traffic or anything else is gonna have any impact on the road commission?
Certainly, significant changes in traffic always get their attention. So, for example, if the McLaren property would develop, despite the money that they've already devoted for capacity changes and the changes that we've made, given that level of development with everything else that has occurred, that would likely trigger, that kind of circumstance. Mr. Sutry, so definitely. That's definitely a triggering mechanism for, for that kind of attention. The other major thing is when, major infrastructure money gets put in budgets, both at the state and federal level. When there's money to spend, there's places to spend it. And that's the reason why you want this kind of stuff in your plans.
That's really how we got the exit at Sashaball for the southbound Dixie, or southbound Sashaball was really because McLaren put up money to partially pay
That
for
and
that.
yes, and a combination of, the CIA, having a corridor improvement authority in place. We had a source of funds to be able to devote for it, and we leveraged that and packaged a whole variety of sources of money. That's how infrastructure occurs, basically.
We recently hired a lobbyist. Would it make sense to put something in here about having them focus on some of these major concerns?
I wouldn't put that specifically in the plan because you don't know how long that relationship's gonna be. Hopefully, yeah, it'll be something the township continues with, but I think this is a benefit to them on your behalf to have stuff like this in the master plan. Because then they can point to it as the community has thought about this.
I would specifically like to draw more attention to the White Lake and Dixie intersection.
Okay.
And I also think the traffic volumes at Sashaball and Walden should be pointed out.
Mr. Scott, you did mention this once before, and I'm curious where that information about the level of service came from.
It was a traffic study done for the Walden project. At certain times of the day, it was level E.
Right. But that's what necessitated their improvements that they made. So what I'm curious about is
But
what.
it still said even after that
Yeah.
light and it'd still be level E. It
Okay.
wouldn't be any worse.
All right.
That's my recollection of it. Could be wrong, but that's my recollection. And with the other development, with the paving of Walden, the other side of Clintonville, Walden's gonna get a lot more traffic. So, cause it's pretty much the best way to get from Baldwin into our area once it's paved.
Well, it'll become a major east-west road,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
like I say, you got maybe, and then the only other one's Clarkston Road, so it'll
Yeah.
definitely, it'll be right in the middle, so I think it'll get the most traffic.
Yeah. Point of maybe process. You talk about the county here and working together and stuff like that. And access management, under access management, and you say that we work together. I have to admit, I was shocked when they approved that additional drive at the Shell station at Sashaball and Walden. I mean, to me, it was just much too close to the intersection. It's a mess now. What authority, if we'd have wanted to, at the planning commission level, deny that access, are we totally subject to the whims of the road commission, or are we have the right to deny that?
Well, you had the right to deny the site plan, but.
But if they come in and say, I got road commission approval, can we say, sorry?
Well, I think you'd have to present, the township would have had to present traffic evidence to the contrary to ask the road commissioner to reconsider, but, that's the problem, is that, they do have the superintendent control over that access to the road. You do have control over the site plan.
Yeah. Okay. And on access management, we don't have to do it tonight, but as I read through this, that seems to be one of the areas that the planning commission has a lot of control over.
They do.
Could you, I'm sure Brian and Ron have a good understanding, because they've been on planning commission for a long time. but maybe for the rest of us, can you show us some examples of good access management, design? So we can, I mean, you know, in my mind, I think of cross-property access, you know, but there's gotta be other things that are totally encompassed. I think it would be helpful to, what do you guys think?
Like a graphic and.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, yes, there's plenty of guidelines that I can provide to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
it's a pretty well sourced subject.
And then on page 86, under road improvement millage, you talk about the 150 grand for residential communities are, I'm just curious how that ties into the discussion within the last couple of board meetings about the dirt road maintenance and all that. Is that?
I mean, we have there's a section on 89 about gravel road paving and improvement. The neighborhood improvement program is what they're referencing. Obviously, there's unused road millage money still.
I remember that, yeah.
And, but the neighborhood improvement program is a separate function altogether to help community or neighborhoods with SAD projects.
And the neighbor, that's the 150 grand that's mentioned. So that's still available?
Yes.
Okay, that's kind of why I was asking, because if it wasn't, it didn't come up during that discussion that I recall. So I was wondering if it's still available, and if not, maybe we should remove it, but, okay.
What, you know, I had a question, on page 90 towards the bottom on the left, it talks about the township ticket. The township is using ticket revenue from the sheriff waymaster. What kind of funds do we get from that?
That's where the money for the road improvement, the neighborhood road improvement comes from, is that waymaster. It's not taxpayer money, it's fine money from the waymaster.
And do we have like an idea like annually?
Oh, it's well over $50,000 a year.
Oh.
In fact, might be close to 100.
Yeah, I think
that's a lot
I
of
seem to remember
No,
something
that-
closer
it
to
really only has
$100,000
the money's going
in,
there.
Yeah.
Sheriff keeps the other
in
half to
ticket
pay for
money.
the Waymaster. and,
Yeah, I had Rick run those
and,
numbers
you know, that
a
labor.
couple months ago.
We should probably,
And most of the trucks that get ticketed are garbage trucks. You know, almost all of them are overweight.
That's not for the neighborhood improvement
But some of it's because they're not using their job. So,
this
you know,
is
they're not driving properly, or they get the wrong size tires on. There's all different reasons why they're overweight.
Isn't there
And this is
southbound?
TBD.
Southbound.
On what they're gonna do with the money.
Waymaster, yeah. But we're talking about just the,
No, they could pull you over anyway.
yeah, they're mobile waymasters, they have like mobile scales in their car.
Oh, I mean, they're
So you can pull them over and have you drive.
So, yeah, the last one.
okay.
That's why they closed the one on the north side, because
And then
They would
this
move
is
it.
really the neighborhood improvement.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Now I get it.
so that's why I just thought it was. not as
Okay,
Anybody else
thank
got
you.
any
That way you
comments?
kind of separate them.
You'll
On
get
roads?
truck traffic is going south.
I should just take that out of there.
So that's why they cut down
you could.
Dixie and to.
Dick, are you ready to take
Yeah.
any comments on safety paths?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a long shot, but I'd like a safety path on Walden over I-75.
Amen.
Wouldn't everybody?
Can we put it in there?
Sure.
We, Supervisor Kittle and I tried to work with MDOT and the road commission on that when we repaved Walden.
Yeah.
And we basically had a big, long drawing of the bridge, and we went out and walked it, and we made measurements to try to allocate an area between the barriers, and they wouldn't have anything, they didn't want any part of it.
I appreciate what a monumental task it would be, but
Yeah.
We even researched,
That's-
what it would take to put like cantilever walkway and
Yeah.
everything on there, and it was still a couple $1 million
yeah.
just to do
Yeah.
something like that, so.
But I don't think it hurts keeping it in putting it in the plan, Bill.
At page 91, you got a comment, initiate a study of pedestrian crossings along major corridors at key intersections. Curious, what would be the goal of that?
You know, that's been in there for a while.
And from the safety path study, like, there's things like up North Sashabaw by the park, there's like by the Bailey House, there's people that live on the east side, but the sidewalk's on the west side, and all the safety paths on the west side. So it's like, they've been trying to come up with some way to get a crossing around there, so the people on the east side could get to the west side without going all the way down to Oak Hill.
Yeah.
Or is it Oak Hill? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
the
that- so-
subdivision there.
So that would
has
be
one.
like, it sounds like, you're trying to cross I-75, it's really just major roads like Sashabaw, Dixie Highway.
You know, we could
spots
probably
like
add a
that.
little more explanation to that, because what Ron is saying is, that was kind of some of the thinking behind it, that we have, we have safety paths, but we have a lot of places where you can't even cross the road to the other side to get to the other safety path.
Is that something we do internally, or are there companies you hire to do that?
We wouldn't do it internally. I mean, the
Yeah,
township.
Dave
had-
McKee had
Dave
somebody.
McKee
that-
has,
Okay.
has engineering consultant that does, very specifically does their safety
This
path.
last
work.
year, we just put a crossing in Clintonville Road out by, it's on Clarkson
Greenview.
Road, just east of Clintonville Road. There's a flashing light, and basically it's just a signal, like to say, the pedestrian could push it, this light flashes, so hopefully then
Yeah.
people are slow down so people can cross the road right there, though. Those are the kind of things, though, and on Sashball down here, we put in a hawk signal down there by the Bull Point.
Okay.
So, I mean, those are all things where, you're trying to come up with ways where pedestrians can cross major roads, like Dixie,
Yeah.
Sashball, those types of
Okay.
things, but have some kind of signalization or some kind of notification for the driver so you
Got it.
don't mow down the pedestrians, so.
And would that be something probably initiated by the Safety Path Committee? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I really want to expand on this. I'll talk to Mr. McKee a little bit more about
Okay.
that, but I think we can really beef that up.
And just a thought, my wife and I were in Holland on Monday, and that's for the Tulip Festival. And we'd been to Holland numerous times. There's a 4-lane road, I think it's 4 lanes, like a block behind downtown. It kind of goes between downtown and the university, if anybody's been there. And when we were there before, what I'm gonna tell you is there now, wasn't there. And they've done a really nice decorative job of building these interspersed medians. Like, there'll be an open stretch of road with no median, but then you get to the intersection and there's this
It's a safe crossing
median
area.
with a light and stuff and everything. It's really attractively done. And if anybody ever gets there,
Yeah, last week, I was
It-
there with
It's
last
It's
week.
a safe crossing island.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what,
But it
that's
was
called,
very
safe
attractively
crossing.
done
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
too.
Those
So-
are also like traffic calming devices and that type of thing too.
The, there has been discussion from time to time about that being done on Dixie Highway. We have no breakup of traffic
Yeah.
from Andersonville Road to Mabee Road. You have nearly 2-mile stretch of road there, basically, where there is no break in the traffic.
Yeah.
And there has been some discussion in the past about having some safe crossing zone there, but you'd have to have some kind of signal, and
Like hawk signal or something.
Oh, yeah. Dixie Highway gets a lot more traffic than that street in Holland.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Page 92, water system. There's a lot of dates in there. Water reliability study has to be done every 5 years. The last study was done in 2010. A new study will be completed in
Yeah,
15.
that's been updated.
Update, you can update that?
Yeah, in fact, I already had a note that has
Okay,
to be
cool.
updated.
Good.
Okay. Anybody else?
There
Please.
was, you know what, I'm struggling to find it now, but they were talking about this, and maybe I just misread it. There's a couple long strips through the township where they are for utilities,
Yeah.
like now.
ITC corridors
Yeah, the
is that what it
ITC
is?
corridor,
Couple
sure.
of them.
with big power
Was
lines.
there verbiage about bringing a safety path through those
Yeah.
areas?
That's the
Did
county's
I
plan.
wanted to talk about that. I thought that's a great idea. I don't live in that specific area, but I have friends that do, and I don't know that we spend any time talking about that.
Yeah, it's
It's-
Oakland County's
Oh,
plan
is it?
throughout the entire county to use the utility corridors.
And, Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for years, and, you know, the safety path committees have been active and then inactive and then active and then inactive but this is a totally wasted resource in the township.
Yeah.
Because you have major utility corridors that run through here ITC. And in the past, ITC has expressed a willingness to allow pathways to go. Now, what their attitude is now, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what would it take to build a safety path? Do we approach, who would they, so first of all, this would fall under the safety path committee, right?
Mhm.
So the planning commission can't really move on anything except how would we support the safety path committee?
It's
in that?
required.
Pardon me?
Safety paths are required.
No, but he's talking about within the ITC corridor.
Yeah,
Oh,
within the
yeah.
ITC corridor, right?
I mean, there needs to be a lot more joint committee work in the township
Yeah.
between Safety Path Committee, Parks and Recreation, and the Planning Commission. The Open Space Committee fits right into this.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, there's all this sort of divided responsibility. But that's, again, it gets to, you know, where it starts. You gotta get, you know.
Okay.
On that topic, have those various committees seen the sections of these that deal with them, or is that after we finish it?
Not until I don't want them to see this until you're comfortable with it.
Would it be helpful to have?
Dave McKee has, who the staff person to the safety
The safety
committee.
path committee actually has its own master plan as well. And I guess what I have talked to Dave McKee about is that somehow we need to get a link. I don't know if there could be a link in here where, you know, this, you know, if you're reading this online, you can click on it and it goes to the safety path plan or, you know, that type of stuff, and vice versa in the safety path.
That's a good
They can go
idea.
back to the master plan.
Does the DDA have that too? Or their own plan?
Mhm.
Do they?
In fact, I would say that any committee, any outside additional committee, we should probably have links to in the master plan, or at least references to how to get to there, because we're talking about their sub-plans, so it makes sense, I think,
Have that link.
yeah, we should somehow connect all this together. Technically, I don't know how hard that is, but
It's not hard.
seems to
If
me like
nothing
it
else,
makes
if
sense.
But
It's
it
a
really is
website.
all connected. It's all on,
It's all online.
it's all on the township website.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian and I can work to figure out how to do
I
that.
mean, you could
but-
have the website name listed there or whatever, but I mean, in the online thing, it could actually be a link
Yeah.
and everything
In the
too.
published document,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
What,
in PDF.
So you don't have to
We-
go find
You
it.
know, it's
Yeah.
like,
No, I agree.
the zoning ordinance is hyperlinked. There's no reason why you can't do the same thing
Right.
with your master plan.
Yeah.
so when those committees get around to reviewing their sections of our master plan, or
Mhm.
this master plan, not ours, do they just do it individually, or do they have a meeting where they sit down and discuss it?
Well, it's gonna be up to them, but what we've done in the past and we'll do now is essentially provide them with a copy and ask for their comments, and they can decide how they wanna do it, how they wanna do it. They might delegate it, but how they wanna do it, they might have a subcommittee doing it, but we need to have the open space committee look at the green infrastructure section, but I didn't wanna do that until you've had a chance.
Understood.
Yeah.
No, but where I'm going with this, I don't wanna overstep, but it seems like it would be a great idea to have somebody from the planning commission, whoever of us might be willing to volunteer to do that, sit on those meetings where they review it.
That would be tremendous if you,
Just do like a presentation or something.
Yeah.
that would be actually unique.
Yeah.
Brian, can you, or, I don't know how we communicate
Chairman?
that to them, but, yeah,
Yeah,
Joe.
just piggybacking on that, Mr. Carlisle, would you be willing to help, or maybe Brian? If we get some of these committees to work more together, and we talk about presenting portions of the master plan that affects these other subcommittees and all that, it would be good to have some interaction, I mean, some professional interaction, you know, not just guesswork at how they really, I mean, maybe that's a separate plan, and Bill, your comments are, you know, are on, you know, maybe it's, we all volunteer to sit on one committee or something like that, to be the liaison, I hate to use that word because we're using it too many of our committees, but anyways, it's all about communication.
Yep.
And anything we can do to improve that has got to be a plus.
Okay. Good.
I'd be willing to work on that too.
May
So
I
if you
ask a
come up with
question?
any
Can I
ideas.
just throw something out here? What would the planning commission think in the implementation section about on an annual basis, having a planning commissioner meet, designated planning commissioners meet individually with all of these other committees? There's only about 3 or 4.
I think it'd be great.
I think we haven't, Bill, you made a comment early on in this process about this being different than the type of document that you had reviewed in Washington Township. And that's true, because it is more comprehensive, and we've tried to include everything. I think probably what to some degree might be lacking is the coordination. I mean, we coordinate to the extent that we can through the department heads who head up these various committees. But I think that this community could benefit more by intercommittee, communication. Because you may find that you're all working on some of the same things. And now that you have a DDA taking care of Dixie Highway, and you still have the CIA here for Sashbuck Corridor, and these other committees, you don't want to be working at cross purposes either, so.
What would be some of the outcomes that we'd be looking for, other than just transparency of what we're stating in the master plan or what they're stating in the other committees?
I think accomplishment. I mean, I think basically getting things done, because you might find that that you can bring resources to the table or thoughts to the table that help them do something. By the same token, they can do. One of the things you got to remember about, for example, the Safety Path Committee, is that they're one of the few committees on the DDA, not including the DDA, but they actually have a source of funding. We have a dedicated millage in this township. They would benefit from hearing the Planning Commission's thinking about things, definitely. And I think that coordination hasn't nearly taken as much place as it could have. I don't know how much liaison there is between Parks and Recreation and the Safety Path Committee. I think the director sits on the Safety Path Committee.
I thought they were, yeah.
But, it's that kind of thing. And I think the benefit is really to more effectively use township resources. So that, to me, is the benefit. So, for example, I'm sorry.
No.
You have things in this plan about the direction that you think things are going. The Safety Path Committee wouldn't have any idea, in that regard, unless it's communicated to them.
I'd just like to piggyback on that. For at least a year, off and on, I would hear that there's a conflict or a built-in potential conflict between ROAC or open space and Parks and Rec. And it was like, I kept hearing that. Of course, Adam is on open space now.
Mm-hmm.
So I met with him this morning. It was just by accident. I happened to be coming here, dropping off some minutes, and there he was. And I said, hey, I'm going to give you a call. We're going to set up a meeting between a couple of us on open space and Parks and Rec to talk about what we talked about. I just mentioned equestrian and drop it at that. Yeah, and he started to talk, and we talked back and forth, and he says, yeah, we should get together and talk about that and how you're presenting. Now, we're not trying to move forward. Don't worry, Brian. We're not trying to move forward on any particular parcel in northern Oakland County or in the township, but it's just to talk, to get information back and forth, and in the process, he says, I think we ought to include, I'll mention her name, Heidi, Warrington. And I think she's on the Parks and Rec Advisory
She
Board or
must
something.
be, yeah, I don't know.
Or something.
Yeah, she is.
And I said, Heidi, I know Heidi from GoGop, we used to meet and all that, and all of a sudden, we've got this going and that going, and let's get some more cooperation. I think it's a wonderful idea, we just need to figure out how to make it work
Well, I was
better.
gonna say, what about if, literally, if the chairs met, not even quarterly or, maybe not that much, you'd all have to decide, but just to share information amongst the group of committees. That hasn't happened.
That'd be a great idea.
I want meetings. I don't want it to be just the chair. I want, anybody that wants to get involved in doing that,
Well, then delegates.
yeah. I mean, if it's me, it's me, but I would like to open it up to the whole commission.
Yeah.
And I was gonna, at the right point, when we got into implementation, I was gonna bring up the idea, to piggyback on what you said, of making the implementation plan a standing item on the agenda periodically, so we could review the status of how we're doing on achieving those things, which kind of piggybacks with what you said in doing with the various other committees. I would imagine, I'm envisioning your implementation plan and the chart you're gonna put together, and there'll be a responsible party. It'll be Parks and Recs, or the DDA, or Planning Commission, and, yeah, so, okay.
Maybe there's an opportunity for them, whatever committees that potentially we could invite them, whoever's interested, just as an open session here. Do these need to be public meetings too, or no?
It depends on the nature of the committee. Like, for example, you're a public meeting.
Yeah,
ROAC is not subject to the Open Meetings Act because they're an advisory committee. The same thing with the Safety Path Committee, same thing with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, same thing with the Senior Advisory Committee.
so if we were to go there, it wouldn't have to be a public meeting, but if they were to come here, it would have to be a public meeting.
It would be a public meeting. Anything before
And
you
if
is
we
gonna be
meet
a public
as a-
meeting.
More than 4 of us
Yeah.
meet, it has to be a public
But
meeting.
if we kept it to 3,
Subcommittee type thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And by the way, to that point about the Safety Path Plan, Dave McKee and I have spoken about the fact that we want to make sure that what is in this plan agrees with what's in their plan.
And that's kind of what I was getting at.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we're not writing contrasting statements.
But I think we're further along, so by necessity, we need to be a little bit more generalized at this point.
Same with Parks and Rec. Park and Rec has a master plan too, because that's part of their park certification that they have and everything, so.
Right.
That all needs to be linked in here as well too.
Right.
So.
Good thoughts.
Good, yeah. Okay. Where, we ready to move on to green infrastructure? We were gonna do that tonight too, weren't we?
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything on regular infrastructure, for lack of a better term?
I have one question for Ryan.
Yes.
The hamburger on Walton and I-75, that gas station, is that still happening,
Yeah,
the hamburgers?
yeah, we're working on permitting right now.
Prior committees, we approved that gas station overhaul with the hamburger sales there.
Yeah.
I thought that was a chicken place.
It was like a Tasty's hamburger or something like
Yeah,
that.
tasty.
Where is that?
The
Shell
Barbat
station.
Shell station.
Right on the corner
Oh,
here?
yeah.
Yeah.
I never did give you your kudos too there. You got the sign taken down. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Only
Only took 20 years to
like
do that.
50,
There-
25.
Yeah, Supervisor Kittle was the one who started that complaint, and so,
I took a picture. I happened to be driving by when the crane was taking the top
Oh,
part
that's
off, and it's
awesome.
like trying to drive, take a picture.
But don't tell anyone.
Well, we made it a condition of the,
Right, but I'm just saying, if he finally,
Well, yeah, we kinda strong-armed him and said, you're not gonna get any further without taking it down,
yeah.
so
because
finally
he kept
did.
wanting to move forward with the site plan, was, you know, we
That's
kept saying,
great.
what about the sign?
Cause we said no permits without it being taken care of, so.
Okay, green infrastructure, moving along.
Just as a little bit of history, prior to this being called green infrastructure, we called it greenways. In about 15 years ago, the Planning Commission brought Oakland County Planning and Development worked with Oakland County Planning and Development, who had a green infrastructure program to help us, take us all through a process and to develop mapping of our various layers of resources. And hence we, coined the phrase green infrastructure, because the idea is to put it on equal par with infrastructure, being as important an element in this community as other forms of infrastructure, because it forms the environmental underpinning of the township, just as pavement and pipes support the gray infrastructure portion. And so that's why it was given the credence that it was. Even, with the necessity or the idea to bring the initiative about, this township has an amazing history when it comes to preserving open space. Currently, there's approximately 3,500 acres in permanently preserved open space, which is approximately 15% of the township's land base. And there's been an increase of 400 acres since the year 2000, which again is all impressive, but always can be done can even be more aggressive. Being the home starting with the Independence Land Conservancy, this community was a leader in northwest Oakland County when it came to land preservation, and have taken many opportunities to do it. But the one thing that the township has lacked is what is now organized, and that is a singular organization or committee focused on preserving and acquiring more additional open space. So I think that's one of the big changes that have occurred. So that's what gives this, I think, plan even that much more credence for the future. So do you have any comments about this?
I see Sue Julian's name in here a couple of times, and we've had her make presentations.
I know you have, yeah.
recently,
Yeah.
Very good.
Sue's,
She's retiring, by the way.
she'll never retire.
I know.
Well, she's just changing titles.
Right.
There you go. That's why.
She is a tremendous resource. So, take advantage of whatever you can.
I thought the green infrastructure was pretty well done. I had minimal comments on it. Anybody else?
Page 97, under Lower Clinton Deer Lake, that top sentence, can you just clarify the word fee? Is that the word that it is intended to be? The lower and natural habitat through fee simple purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Help me understand what that means.
Fee simple purchase is the outright purchase of property. That's a term used for.
It's a legal term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
You know what,
Confusing.
we actually don't need to use that term,
Versus
but
something.
it does mean, fee simple means you're buying the whole property. When you buy an easement, you're only buying a part of the property, meaning one aspect of for the use of that. You don't own in fee simple. It's an old English term. Brian knows all about this stuff.
Like we just bought,
He's
we just bought like, what, 39 acres
right.
on the west side of Clintonville Park, so to add to the park system there, so.
Title agency language.
Hmm?
Title agency language.
Yeah, I know. It, some of this stuff creeps in some now and then.
Well, thank you for the clarification.
There you go. It's interesting because you all live in, it's a great question as to whether, when it comes to a condominium, you're not, when you purchase, you're owning even in a site condo, that form of ownership is different than, for example, owning a piece of property in fee simple. You're essentially a co-owner. You're almost like a partner in a corporation, in many respects. And your rights are determined through the master deed and bylaws for your use of that place where you live and whatever area surrounding that. So, property ownership has gotten a lot more complicated. 50 years ago, there wasn't any such thing as condominiums, so to speak. Or, there were, it wasn't very common. But fee simple is simply a term for the most simplest form of land ownership, where you own the land and all the rights to it, with the exception you may not own the oil and gas rights, for example, that may be owned by somebody else.
Yeah, some places the mineral rights under the ground are
Right.
included.
Yeah.
You'll say it in your title word.
Wells work. Most of them like
Around
that.
here, most of the time, it's included.
Anything else? This is a word to ROAC. I strongly recommend you use this as a tool. The mapping in here, and Joe, you and I have spoken about things, for example, the Sashabaw Creek corridor, the whole Sashabaw Creek area. You look on this map and you see this tremendous green space, in this portion of the township. That's what I talk about when I talk about Sashabaw Creek. This is one of the most intact wetland systems in the township that is associated with Sashabaw Creek that runs through it. Unfortunately, this is an area where the amount of open space that is permanently preserved has been secured through development activities. And this is an area, in my mind, that should be an active priority of ROAC to try to fill in the blanks out there. Because there is interspersed in this whole wetland area are these little pockets of upland areas that, on occasion, people have some kind of idea that they're gonna get a wetland permit and build back in these areas that are surrounded by this really, fairly unique and largely intact major wetland resource in the township. In my mind, protecting those kind of resources long-term should be a priority. And I've said this for years to the township. This is where the Land Conservancy can be of a lot of help, working together with ROAC to keep these areas preserved in perpetuity. Because right now, many of the areas are not. Even though they're wetlands, doesn't mean eventually somebody isn't gonna try to get a permit to fill them. So or the state might change the laws. You just never know. And your best protection against that is to be able to preserve those with some kind of permanent easement or a preservation easement or permanent acquisition. So that's why my recommendation is set some priorities based on where you see these unique environmental resources, because if you don't protect those, they're not gonna be here anymore.
Does the township protect wetlands of a certain size right now? And he's ignoring,
2 acres.
not ignoring,
Yeah.
not protecting necessarily smaller
Well,
wetland areas.
we're
by
restricted.
our ordinance.
Yeah, we're restricted by the Gomer-Anderson Wetlands Act in terms of the level of wetland that we can protect, which is essentially 2 acres and there's a whole bunch of other criteria within 500 feet of an inland lake or stream, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So,
You say 2 acres, that over or under?
2 acres and over, except if it's within 500 feet of an existing lake or stream, or it is somehow connected, has some kind of interconnection to a larger wetland. That's why on that Hyatt Hotel property, that wetland that I kept referring to was not 2 acres, but it was within 500 feet of Fleming's Lake.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Fleming's Lake.
Fleming's Lake. So there are caveats to that. But basically, our authority is with 2 acres, 2 acres or greater.
I believe that Wetlands Act was repealed in 2011.
It was amended.
Okay.
Well,
I'm
what was
pretty
it-
sure it was repealed and changed to a different one, but.
That's
Act
true.
451 of 1990.
It was repealed and it
94.
changed, but I mean, the basic act didn't change. They did restrict, what came out of that was a restriction on local regulatory authority.
So if it's under 2 acres and not within another body of water, we can't regulate it. And so, if somebody wants to fill it in, they can go ahead and do it.
I mean, the burden, if we attempt to regulate less than 2 acres, the burden shifts dramatically to us to prove that the environmental resource is of such value that it needs to be protected. That's really how, this was, the burden shifted. So because, what had happened is communities had wetland ordinances that were regulating everything, basically. And obviously, the development community has pushed back at that, and continued to do that. So, anyway, so that's when, there were restrictions placed upon local communities. And by the way, I want you to know that one of the chief proponents of working to restore local authority in that entire process was none other than Jerry Fisher. Yeah. I think Jerry actually wrote the compromise language, or had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
He wrote our ballot initiative language too, 15 years ago.
Okay.
But no, I mean, but Belinda, you're correct in the fact that the basic Wetland Act is intact from what it was before. They renamed it, but they did revise the authority in there for what local government could do, okay? They tried to completely strip local government of the ability to regulate wetlands, but there was a large hue and cry about that from the municipal associations. And that was successfully, at least, somewhat defeated.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So everybody ready to move on to the next item on the agenda? Belinda?
Which one to pass it down? And Ryan, can I give you this? This is just backup for what I'm about to talk about.
There's 2 here.
I've just recently completed MSU's Citizen Planner and also attended Michigan Association of Planning and Zoning Workshop. They were both very informative. Both stressed how the future of residential development will most likely be in the form of site condos and HOAs because subdivisions are becoming a thing of the past. That knowledge, along with our current review and update to our master plan, made me realize how now is the time to try and make some changes for more oversight and enforcement. After all, the master plan is our guideline to the future for our township. We have briefly danced around this issue in the past, and I just want to document some of the regulations that are already in place and reinforce how much we as a township need to follow and enforce these guidelines. Our master plan states, the strength of Independence Township lies in its residential areas and neighborhoods. As other land sectors in the community develop, care will be taken to preserve, protect, and maintain our residential base. Efforts will be directed at recognizing the changing housing needs of current and future residents. The goal is to preserve residential character and enhance the strong residential base and plan for future housing. The objective is to recognize the importance of older existing neighborhoods and take positive action to ensure their viability through investments in neighborhood conservation, infrastructure, and code enforcement. That's on page 24 of our master plan. Our municipal code of Independence Township, Article 5, Section 12-119J, already calls for a maintenance agreement for all retention and detention basins to ensure that such facilities are adequately maintained. It appears we have procedures in place, we just don't follow them or enforce them. My site condo subdivision was approved by the planning department 30 years ago, and the master deed and bylaws were also approved by township employees, as their stamp with OK is at the bottom of the pages. There are many inaccuracies in our master deed and bylaws. The most glaring error is that our master deed states the pond can never be dredged, and it is subject to a conservation and preservation easement. I don't find that easement filed of record anywhere. The Citizens Planner also talks about having a detailed maintenance plan in place for conservation areas as a requirement and a condition of approval of a site plan. The community/township should have enforcement rights and may place a lien on the property should the HOA fail to perform their obligations to maintain the conservation land. I have a recent letter from Keeft Engineering stating that they also believe the pond needs to be dredged. Keeft Engineering was the original engineer for this site condo subdivision 30 years ago. I understand that our master plan, or our master deed, would require an amendment in order to move forward with dredging of our pond. I just need the township to step up and state in a letter that the municipal code and the master plan, the original engineer, the State of Michigan Eagle Department have all stated the pond needs to be dredged, and our HOA should take the necessary steps to accomplish the amendment to our master deed, including a maintenance schedule going forward and the subsequent dredging of the pond. I know my neighborhood is not the only site condo subdivision suffering from HOAs that refuse to maintain certain aspects of the common areas. I've heard others complain about similar situations. Since this is a preferred method of residential development moving forward, wouldn't it be advisable to get certain issues under control now rather than later? The recent Citizens Planner talked a lot about placemaking principles, and also mentioned that in 2014, 59% of all new single-family housing built was tied to an HOA. That is a large percentage of our township and needs to be paid attention to. The Citizen Planner did also state that with the zoning in place, it is possible for a zoning permit to be issued for an activity that would run afoul to a deed restriction. That seems to say to me that zoning would take precedence over a deed restriction. Enforcement is a major challenge, but the ordinance is key to implementing the master plan. I just want this complaint to be a record, and I believe our planning commission should take a long, hard look at the issues moving forward and possibly get something written into our master plan with more teeth to ensure we follow the objective that is already set out in our master plan today. Again, that objective stated in our master plan is to recognize the importance of older existing neighborhoods and take positive action to ensure their viability through investments in neighborhood conservation, infrastructure, and code enforcement. Thank you.
Carlisle, do you have anything you'd like to add? No?
Not without, I mean, I just asked Linda to provide me with the master deed and bylaws, but, I'll tell you, my recollection of whether that was a regulated wetland or not is somewhat different than Mr. McWilliams, so that's news to me, but you remember, this was 1992 when this was approved, so.
Oh, they also have a copy of, Brian, I believe you have it, of the permit from Eagle that also states it's not, it is a regulated pond, but not a regulated wetland.
Okay.
And the reason it's a regulated pond is because it flows into the regulated wetlands.
Okay.
I'm gonna comment, cause
It's within 500 feet of all the other
Yeah.
wetlands over there. It's gotta be regulated.
I'm not,
It's not regulated.
I'm not wanting the planning commission to discuss Belinda's particular problem. That's her issue, and we should not be discussing that. I think her problem, in my mind, I see some point on the greater picture. I live in a development that has some drainage issues due to lack of inspection, lack of enforcement. I think Joe does. And I fully recognize, this is my personal opinion, I fully recognize the township doesn't want to get involved in the maintenance of certain infrastructure aspects of HOAs. But we have to be realistic and admit that at some point, if an HOA doesn't maintain their infrastructure, it can become an endangerment to the health, safety, and welfare of the township as a whole. And so I think it's prudent to discuss that, and I think the change in development from traditional subdivisions to condos and bylaws and all that is an evolution that needs to be addressed, and I think we need to make sure appropriate tools are in place that give the township the ability to step in if a HOA is not doing the appropriate thing. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think this is a legal issue, to be very honest, as to whether the township can or cannot, and I think we're gonna have to refer this to the township attorney. Because I can't answer the question, and,
Well,
and I think master deeds and bylaws are, to some degree vary in their construction. They're not all uniform. And I think that we've got to, we're gonna have to get, legal advice as to really what the township's responsibilities really are here.
Do we, on a condo, do we review the bylaws and master deeds?
Yes.
Do we have to sign off on them?
No.
Do we have
Because
to approve them?
those are signed off on.
Well,
I don't know who those people were though.
Does the legal department review them?
Does it-
They should. They should.
I'm gonna answer the question. Yes, okay, they do. But we're only reviewing them for to ensure there is no lack of consistency with the zoning ordinance. That is really why we review the master deed and bylaws, to make sure that there's nothing in conflict with
Well,
what's in the ordinance.
But by way of example, my master deed and bylaws in my condo says that if we don't maintain stuff, the township has the right to come in and essentially do a special assessment district and charge everybody.
I get that, Bill.
But is there something we could do to make sure that's included in every bylaw that we approve going forward?
We could, but what I'm saying is that this is nothing Brian and I deal with. This is something that we're gonna have to involve the township attorney and find out exactly what the township's legal responsibilities are here.
Well, for instance, the new subdivision on Walden, Who reviewed their master deed and bylaws?
Here,
Yeah.
our township attorney did.
I mean, and did they look at all, because mine has so many inaccuracies in it. I mean,
Well, that was a long time ago. I mean, we can't,
Well, that's in your opinion, Belinda.
well, if it says never
I'm sorry, but that
be
is,
dredged,
that is your opinion
whether
that it's inaccurate.
whether it's natural or man-made, nothing lasts forever. I mean,
I don't disagree.
Mr. Chairman?
yes.
And I don't have any solutions to these problems either, but I'm just wondering if these problems aren't gonna get worse as we begin, developing under a new concept of, subdivisions are out, HOAs are in. And I'm not saying tomorrow we better do this and this and this and this, but and then you say we should get a legal opinion or, get somebody to look at it to determine what the township's responsibilities are. I agree, I think the township has to take this on as an issue and it's, to be resolved and I have no idea
It's a
how.
legitimate issue, a very legitimate issue has been raised here.
And that's all.
I'm not sure this is, I don't know if this is the right forum at all.
Might be a policy decision.
But I mean, seriously, this is, at the board level and with the township attorney, that we need, that, this has to be raised to them.
But why can't we raise it to them? That's all I'm saying.
you
is
are.
that It
Yeah.
should be as an information
Correct.
item raised.
Process is the first rule of governorship. You're using taxpayer money to fix private property
Yeah.
problems, so.
Well, I'm not sure that's what
And that's
Belinda's
where-
saying,
no,
though.
no, that's not what I'm saying.
Well, I'm just saying, but that's where, if the township's gonna get involved, there has to be like an SAD for the people involved to pay for it.
No,
'Cause
they
You're
take-
not utilizing township taxpayer money to fix private.
On mine, it
property.
says they're taxed back to the homeowners plus a 25% administrative fee. So it's not like the township would be paying for it. That's just, and another thing, this supervisor scorecard, I don't know why that ever stopped, because HOA, town hall meetings,
We did that. We met with every HOA, Mr. Kittle and myself.
you never met with me.
Oh, it may not have been you, it may have been somebody else.
That should be ongoing, because especially if 59.
Were you on the board?
I was, yeah, for 7.5 years. If HOAs are having these kinds of issues, there should be a sounding board.
That's a policy decision too, so.
Who makes the policy?
It's the supervisor.
Supervisor.
So
and the
should
town-
I go to the trustee meeting to ask about that?
Belinda, I don't want, this committee is not for you to solve your personal problem.
I get that totally. But I'm not the only one with problems with HOAs in this township.
Well,
If you live in a neighborhood where your HOA isn't doing something you want done, you change the people on the HOA, correct? Isn't that your avenue when you vote
Yeah.
to do something and spend your subdivision's funds the way you see fit? If you don't like what your township government's doing, you run for office and try and change it, right? So why does the township need to step in? Isn't the answer change the leadership in the subdivision?
That sounds really good, but my HOA, 4 of the people on the board did not even send out a ballot. They just continued on.
Well, sounds like a court
but
case.
you're
then.
violating the condominium act.
Yeah.
And your own bylaws. I mean, that is not something the township can enforce. I know that for a fact. The other aspects of this, we do need to get some legal advice as to really what the township's responsibilities are.
Yeah, I think you're right in to do that, but I wouldn't cavalierly write it off that it's not a township responsibility. When they sign off on master deeds, when the township puts their John Henry on there, they now have some responsibility. And you can't say they don't, because they do. Just like the county signs off on these deeds, and the major deeds to set up an HOA, when you set it up. Now, I'm not the legal expert, and I don't know the answers. I'm just saying, there's enough of these things cropping up, that maybe it ought to be just addressed, not solved next month. I'm not, this is maybe a long-term solution, but I don't think the township should put their head in the sand because we're continuing to develop in that direction. So
I'm
that's
not
all I'm saying.
disagreeing, I'm not disagreeing with
Yeah,
any
no,
of
I
that,
know, I
Joe.
know, and I
I'm just
agree
saying,
that
this isn't the body or the forum where that kind of solution is
That's
going to
right.
come to.
That's right, but I mean, we
Because
could maybe raise the
we have no
issue.
ability to affect
We
it.
could maybe raise the issue,
Yes.
but, yeah, I mean, my homeowner association says the same thing, it's in there in black and white, take it to the township, you know. It's an option, but take it to the township, they will do it, and they will rebid it back, or no, just, they will charge back to the HOA. And as long as the township agreed to that and signed off on it, they can't escape that.
But
You can't say that it's not theirs, I mean, that,
Yeah, again, I'm not gonna speak for the
Yeah,
town,
yeah,
what
and
the
I'm not
township
gonna,
attorney
you know,
believes
either,
they,
'cause I don't wanna get
what they
into a legal
do,
issue
and
here.
the sign, you know, and what
It
they
just
sign
needs to
off
be
on.
resolved, it just needs to be resolved, and if
Yeah.
it's a policy issue, which I agree it is, it's not a planning commission issue, then, you know, it needs to get there, and maybe we're a responsible body to recommend it get there, you know, and then we wipe our hands off and say, it's your job now, you know, I don't know, but we can't just turn our heads around and say, this doesn't exist, because it does.
So, are you, Dick or Brian, are you willing to take it to the board or at a higher level and see if they want to have it addressed? Or does the planning commission need, if we're so inclined, to send that directive?
Why wouldn't, like Belinda, why wouldn't you just go directly to the township supervisor and talk to him?
Well,
I mean, that's,
I,
you know,
if,
you're talking about how come the HOA meetings are going? That's a decision of the township supervisor whether he wants to do that or not.
we could, well, do we as a planning commission, is there enough opinion that there is something there that should be looked into to send that? I don't,
I guess
if
I- to
Linda
me,
wants to
uh,
do that on her own outside the planning commission, that's fine, but do we wanna do it? I'm sorry, Ron.
I'm just gonna say, my personal opinion of the whole thing is that it's not a planning commission issue. It's, the HOA, I guess, kinda like what Brian's saying, is you have to show some evidence that you're trying to correct the action with your HOA. And I understand, like, if the township is, you know, gonna intercede and say, fix a drain or do something in your neighborhood, but me, as a township trustee, I would never vote to use taxpayer money to fix a private property issue.
Well, but,
I guess I would vote to, fix it and if that, you know, charge back that entity or whatever, but not just to do it with taxpayer money.
what I'm suggesting, and I think maybe Belinda, the same thing, I agree with what you said, but I think I fully, as a HOA president, knowing some of the hurdles you run into, I can foresee situations where you get HOAs who are just totally inactive and don't function, and single-family subdivision HOAs are probably more likely inclined to be that way than a higher density condo. So I can fully see a situation where it's not gonna be maintained, and it could affect the health, safety, and welfare, and I think the township, to protect the residents, the rest of the residents, needs a way to be able to step in and charge it back.
Well, I agree that there's a process, but I mean, to me, that's where like I say, the township attorney have to get involved, because there has to be there has to be some evidence that the HOA issue was at least enacted upon, and if it's to the point, like you say, it's affecting the health, safety, and welfare of the community, or you know, local people, whatever, then that's when, you know, that's when the trigger point would have to happen with, you know, something legally, so. But I mean, those are all legal steps that happen before the township comes in there to do something, so.
Yeah.
So will you approach the
I'm
attorney?
not, I'm a consultant.
Brian, will you approach the attorney to
Yes.
get an opinion?
Sure.
I appreciate that,
Thank you. But I don't disagree that this is not a long-term issue, but I just, it's fine for the planning commission to talk about this, but it really is the township board that is the ultimate body that makes a decision to what extent they're going to get involved in this issue.
But I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I don't, certainly.
I mean, there's other HOAs that have come to the township for the, you know, similar type reasons. And like I say, it still gets referred to our legal, entity to try and work that out. Because the township's, it's gonna be the last option before the township steps in and interferes with an HOA issue, so.
Well, and I could just say, in my own instance, my HOA has the money to dredge the pond, but they'd rather have a place set. So, I mean, it's not that they're looking to they just don't want to dredge the pond. So, I just feel like since the state has been there, Eagle has been there, I've got an engineer's report that says it's been 30 years that stormwater has been flowing in through this, so.
All right,
Actually,
Joe, did you want to say something? No?
no.
All right, next item, discussion,
I'll give
anybody else
Mr. Carlisle all my advice.
got anything else they wanna discuss? Motion to adjourn at 8:21.
Support.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, folks.